Family, worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. Give yourselves a round of applause from the beginning, from the gate. Let's get the energy up from the beginning. Welcome to Building with Big King, episode 17. Round of applause for that and for all of you. I see you coming in. Come on in, family. You can announce yourselves in the chat. I love to welcome you to the conversation, right? Man, I love you all, truly. Thank you. This is, dream come true for me. So please know that you have my gratitude, indeed. Thank you all so much, man. This is beautiful. This is, again, episode number 17 of Building with Big King. Today's subject matter is a very interesting one and likely polarizing, right? Naturally polarizing, even. As we are talking about relationships, right? The subject matter, today's subject line is let's heal together so we can get to healthy relationships, right? And first of all, I want to lay, and I'm not going to take long at all before I get to the comments, because I truly can't wait to hear what you all have to say about this. But most certainly, I want to state that when I say relationships, I mean all sorts of relationships, right? And I'm talking about like mother to daughter, friend to another friend, the confidant to confidant, even casual relationships and associates in your life, and people you have to do business with throughout your life, and people you just have cordial interactions with or daily interactions with, like you might run into the mailman or something of that nature, right? These are all relationships, right? And I think that that's not something frivolous that we should just toss away as like dismissible, right? I think that it is very important that we acknowledge the different types of relationships that we have in our lives, right? And that take shape in our lives in one way or another. I think that's solid and very important, something that we should not take lightly, right? It's very important for us to acknowledge all the different types of relationships. Okay, now with that being said, I do want to bring an immediate focus on relationships of the. I actually even hate to use the term romantic, because that only refers in giving reference to Romanism, right? Not really what the focus is. Hey, Deanne, from Connecting the Dots with Deanne. Thank you. And D, welcome. Family, so we are talking about relationships, right? All different types of relationships, but most certainly, I guess I'm opening it up with a focus on relationships of the quote unquote romantic nature, right? Okay, so I think that this is a very important subject. Is as much as it is polarizing, it is important and impactful in the lives of anyone involved in any relationship, right? Um, I think that I know that from my perspective, I see the effects of indoctrination, right? And the effects of all of the fear society symptoms we've had to suffer through, and the effects of all the agendas that are heaped upon us, and the effects of all the stress and strain of what the global picture is skewed to be looking like, right? And the effects of all of the stress of trying to forge in your own mind some vision of the future for yourself and for your family, right? Amidst all what appears to be chaos, even in many times. Hey, Isha, what's up, my dear daughter? Most certainly, always welcome, and thank you so much for chiming in here. Warms my heart every time. Thank you, my dear. Yeah, this is and please, I'm again, I'm not going to stay in this a long time in terms of an explanation because I want everybody's feedback, right? Um, I really need to know what y'all think so that we can push this to a healing place. Um, because I think the overall direction of how society has progressed has been very impactful on relationships of a coupling nature, right? Whether it be heterosexual or homosexual, whatever classification, right? The point is, when we're talking about a relationship that is at least to some degree lasting, right, and meaningful in the person's life, then that means for whatever period of time that person or those persons are involved in that relationship, um, there needs to be, I think, a certain degree of healing to counteract all of the things that have been heaped upon us that have really taught us um, a way of living that is devoid of what I call unconditional love or true love, right? Or the Creator's love, which is certainly love that is actually unconditional, right? I talk about this in detail in my first book. Um, please make sure that you get that. The title is Peace, Love, Respect. This is the new way. Excuse me. Little sip. All right. Peace, Love, Respect. This is the new way is the title, right? Please be sure that you check that out. All you have to do is Google me. You can certainly get and use the link right from my YouTube channel as well to get to my books. But yeah, really though, that's an important. I just gave y'all a little plug all in the middle of the conversation. My bad, y'all. Um, but yeah, it is very important, I believe, that we find very effective ways of counteracting all that has been heaped upon us that has changed us from beings of unconditional love naturally. I believe, right, in my opinion, that we are that. Brother Sean, welcome. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, my brother. um, we most certainly welcome you and look forward to your input. I'm about to open this up in a second. I told y'all I'm not going to talk long about this, but I do want us to consider in the conversation that we are being inclusive of like all kinds of relationships, but that we do give focus to relationships that involve couples of any nature, right? Especially if it involves a family of any nature, right? We need all of those environments to be healthy, right? And we need to really start to heal out of all of the mechanisms that have taught us, the mechanisms that have been instilled by uh, uh, the linear control systems of the socially economic elite, heaped upon us to keep us in a divisive mind state, to keep us in separation mentality. Folks, you know that picture that you would always get in your mind, and that we are sort of given little pictorial and views in movies and whatnot to keep the imagery of sort of a devil, a horned devil in your minds. You always see the horns pointing away at some point, right? That is to illustrate and represent separation mentality. I'm not being religious. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not into religion, but it's good that we understand the symbology and how that ties into the ideology of the socially economic elite who want to keep us focused on separation mentality, right? They want to keep us focused on being as divisive and separated as much as possible. And that most certainly is relative to and weighs in on our relationships. Think of how combative relationships in general, just even as a subject matter between men and women, have become, right? And then all the other different areas. And I don't want to start to single any out. But with that being said, let's keep all that in consideration and let's start to heal, right? This is sort of the question that I'm opening up for everyone. What does a healthy relationship look like for you? What do you need out of it? And what can you now bring to the table at your stage of spiritual maturity and awakening? I pose that as an open question for everyone. And I really, really am looking forward to each and every one of your input so that we can bounce this off of each other and heal in that way so that we can find a way to really lay a pathway for healthy relationships, right? That's the goal. Healthy relationships. We need that. Folks, love somewhere along the way became the new four-letter word, the bad word. Huh? People don't even want to say love anymore. But we'll drop the F-bomb like that. But don't want to say love. Just think about that. We got to get love back in these relationships, whatever kind of relationship they are. Okay, with that being said, everybody, please, 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 I love you so much, and I need you now to please start jumping in, and I'm opening this up right now. I'm not running my jibs for 50, 60 minutes like I usually do, right? I'm opening this up right now. Please, folks, jump in and give me your input because we need to bounce this off one another. What do you see as what you need out of a healthy relationship? And what things do you think that you bring to the table now as you find yourself being more spiritually mature? Maybe even potentially in comparison to earlier on in your life, or just flat out where you're at now. That's the important thing. All right, hit me, folks. I need to know what you're thinking. Isha, if you're still in, give me something. Sean, if you're still in with me, brother, please give me something. Deanne, if you're in with me, give me something. Come on, folks, holler at me because I need you all today. I can start to talk about myself, and I know that I was so incredible looking in retro, right? With they always say, hindsight is 2020. Using that hindsight and looking back on myself, I was so incredibly immature, right? In comparison to where I'm at now, it's like literally two different human beings. And I don't say that to fault myself, even. That's where I was at, and I did the best that I could do with what I had at that point and stage of my own development. It's just that I've come so far now, right? Which is a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful for all that growth and development. And truly, I have the aspect of unconditional love. First of all, I bring to the table the fact that I can honestly say I love every man, woman, child on the face of this planet. Man, I love every bird, insect, flower, right? Bear, panda, aquatic being, whatever. Aliens, whatever. If the creator created you, you have a purpose. And I respect and honor that. And I love you unconditionally for your expression of the creator's energy. And I mean that wholeheartedly. So just having that as a base, as a floor, completely changes the game for me with what I bring to any sort of a relationship beyond that. But okay, I said I wasn't going to run my mouth, so I'm not. Alicia, thank you so much, dear. She jumps in. Alicia, my cuz came in and said, I'm not sure love has a place in all relationships. Okay. Especially if you haven't grown the relationship to reach that point. It's not a dirty word, but a serious one. Okay. Um, that is a very valid and interesting point. Hey, cuz, thank you so much. You came through, and I truly appreciate that. Um, I think that my perspective now is, like I said, I go into any relationship with a floor of unconditional love, and I think that sometimes when I say that, or maybe a lot of times, people maybe even misconstrue it a little bit for what they automatically jump to and picture in their mind as like a romantic love, right? Um, quote unquote. Um, but that unconditional love, that just listen, like I said, you're an expression of creative energy. And if the creator, and this is just my personal purview, gave enough and cared enough about you to express you from the thought of you to you actually existing, um and being another expression of the creator's energy, man, I love that, and I love you, whatever you are. So I bring that to the table initially, and from that floor, um I think that when I and depending on the relationship, because again, I acknowledge, and you also did in your comment, that we're talking about different kinds of relationships, right? And I think that certainly many different kinds of relationships have no room for any sort of a romantic love, right? But I think that for myself, I can bring unconditional love to all floors, regardless of whether it's received or reciprocated. Now, that's just where I'm at right now. I don't have a requisite for the return myself, because for me, the reward is in me extending it out. And I already know that by me putting out those waves, right, those electromagnetic waves of true unconditional love is my intent. That's the intent that's steering my energy into the quantum field, that it's going to reverberate back to me in some form of love, whether that's immediate and immediately received and reciprocated by the individual that I'm interacting with at that particular point, right? Whatever the relationship is, or not, it's still coming back to me, right? And I'm not even doing it for it to come back to me. I'm doing it because it enriches my soul and where I'm at right now, just for me to have it, right? And it's just a great floor for me to start at all relationships. But I think that you mentioned a couple of really great points. Thank you for acknowledging that love is not a dirty word, but it is serious, right? And we should never take our love as something frivolous, right? And to be easily um, extended in a way that, and I think this is also something that opens up the nuance of this conversation a little bit, because I think that when we say that it's a serious word, we can, to some degree, attach a certain need for discernment in using it, if we're going to say that, right? So that would, um, to some degree, lend a pathway to the curiosity of whether or not there's a certain level of vulnerability that we tend to extend or visualize ourselves extending if we say we love someone. Like, do we feel a little bit vulnerable? Like, because what if you say you love somebody, you just say, man, love, whatever, and you just extend it in that regard and they don't give it back. Is that like a vulnerable position? I think to a certain degree it is. But then again, also when you get to a certain level, or not even about levels, you just get to a point in yourself that you're comfortable enough to extend that regardless of what you get back necessarily. I think that that's very empowering. At least it is for me, because it's a certain independence that I have and the ability to be able to extend that, again, regardless of where the other person's, because you can't forecast where another person is, and honestly, or even judge where another person is as to whether or not they're going to give that unconditional love back to you. And I don't, right? Um, but it's just so beautiful and interesting to see how much I do actually end up getting, right? Because I live a life of always extending out unconditional love. Folks, I get a lot of love, even in my travels, right? As I took a trip not long ago and made videos from several different cities like Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and et cetera, Baltimore, Maryland, and Cleveland, Ohio, et cetera, et cetera. And in all these places, folks, I get a lot of love. I need to share that with you, right? Some people would even say it's strange the amount of love that people like really with open arms acknowledge and accept me like they just bumped into some family that they ain't seen in 15, 20 years. I'm telling you, strangers give me this because why? Because I have for years now been putting out into the quantum field true unconditional love. So that's just my experience. But thank you so much, Alicia. I needed that. Anybody else, please jump in with some input. Anybody else, please give me something. Or Alicia, if you have something else that you want to say in reference to what I just said, um, please, man, because this is an important conversation, folks. Because when I talk about the things that have been heaped upon us, right? We're talking about years and years of indoctrination that have been truly intrusive in the fabric of what we are, right? And when I say that, I mean that they have really put us in a place where we don't interact with each other healthy in any of our relationships, at least up to the potential of what we could, right? Because we're often operating from an ego standpoint, meaning, this is what I mean by that, folks, that we're thinking about me. What am I getting out the relationship? What does this do to fulfill me or satisfy me, right? And that is often because we are in some state of need ourselves to be complete. We are incomplete and need to be or feel like we need something external to complete us. So we go into relationships in that sort of a needy mentality. Many of us, not everyone, of course, right? And I'm about to jump into the comments. Leslie Johnson, thank you, dear, for joining the conversation, my dear friend. Please hit me with some commentary on this subject matter. We need your wisdom, sister. Please. And Sean, please come in as well, brother. We often go into these relationships with parts of us that need to heal, right? Many of us are carrying in karma that we may or may not even be aware that we have, right? And these things weigh and have a toll that weighs in the relationship. Okay. So we end up looking to others to complete that. And that's not an indictment on anyone, folks, but it's often where we're at, where we do it on a subconscious level. So our actual daily actions, we're doing it and don't necessarily notice it because we do it subconsciously. We don't know that we're looking to that other person as some sort of means of externally satisfying something that's within us. Leslie, come on, please jump in and share with me and what you think about this. We're talking about relationships, healing together, and getting to a point where we start to have more healthy relationships, right? All kinds of relationships, but certain relationships that involve any form of like a couple or family, right? Um, it's important, I think, that we recognize that divisiveness that was indoctrinated and embedded into us, right? Um, all as a part actually of social engineering, which made it all that much more intrusive in our lives because it was a backdrop in every institution that affected our everyday lives, from religion, education, even things we wouldn't think of like agriculture and health. You know, it all is affected and impacted in some way by this agenda of indoctrination that most certainly exists. Is not actually even, that's the interesting thing, folks. Or what I find so interesting when people's mind tend to wander into consideration of things as a quote unquote conspiracy theory or something that would be categorized that way, right? Um, it's often so plain and open and not even hidden that it's amazing to not be seen, right? And for people to even be like, oh, well, that's crazy. You're thinking, what do you mean? Like it's right in front of your face, right? I literally, at one point, I don't want to sidebar, get off topic here, but I remember one time there was planes dropping uh, um, chemtrails like crazy, right? And I pointed it out to somebody and was asking what they thought about it, and they like, well, "What do you mean? I don't see nothing, just some clouds." What? They couldn't even see it. That level of. But anyway, uh, folks, please get at me because I do need your input to grow and to keep this conversation in a healthy direction where we're bouncing this off of one another and gaining from each other's wisdom. So Leslie, please give me something. Alicia, if you got something else, please give me um, something maybe in reaction to what I was saying. Sean, please jump in, brother. Give me something. Isha, if you still listening, babe, I know you're busy. I, man, I applaud her, a wonderful new mother, my daughter. You know, the excellent job she does with my grandson. Excellent ain't the word. I mean, he's a fantastic little young man and has a lot of energy. And yeah, man, so that's deep. Um, okay, reciprocated love, non-beneficial support, effective communication, maturity, unconditional love, and of course, respect. Man, see, now I have to say, as a father, especially with Father's Day coming up, that it's wonderful to see my daughter at such an incredibly mature place to know the things not only that she wants out of a relationship, but for those things to be of such great substance, right? Uh, I salute you, huh? Thank you, baby. Thank you so much. True indeed. I think that's a fantastic list. Um, of what you're looking for in someone that you know that you can reciprocate back, right? um I think that's magnificent because when we can give that kind of atmosphere for each other to share in the human experience, right? Man, I think it's magnificent and so much different than we're wrapped up in the old, you know, man, I got to go and check their cell phone because of this and that and this and all they didn't. And man, I can pull this over on her, or I can pull this. Y'all get what I'm saying? The flaw. We all. I don't even have to get into a list of the flaws in relationships that we've seen, right? Um, so to go into it with more healthy admirations is beautiful. All right, Isha comes back in and says, I bring my heart. If you know me, I have a big heart, a safe space, a new level of maturity and perspective on my life, unconditional love, and most importantly, me. LOL. Truly my spirit, word life. Again, I salute you, right? Y'all know that's how we do it on the channel. We give that salute, and that's worthy of one. Thank you, dear daughter. That is that's worthy of saluting. Anybody else want to piggyback off of what Isha said, or have some sort of a reaction, or somewhere that they can build on what she said, or with what I have said in regard to this? I think that she certainly gave us some wonderful things that we can branch off of and bring more nuance to the conversation. Sean comes in and says, love is unconditional if you have it for yourself first. True that. True that. I think on one podcast, we really focused on talking about that love of self, right? Um, and how Whitney was so right and sung it like nobody else can, and certainly I will not attempt to. But it is the greatest love of all. Um, Folks, you're not giving love to anybody, not really, if you don't love yourself. You can give affection, you can give attention, you can give, you can meet needs, right? You can do all of these different things and have all of these different reciprocations back and forth with an individual, but not really have that true unconditional appreciation that opens you up to true unconditional love for them at whatever level, whatever the relationship is, unless you first have it within yourself to give, right? You ain't giving no loans out of empty bank, huh? So yeah, you got to have it in there first. Thank you, brother Sean. True that, brother. Right? Um, Man, we really, I think, and it's understandable, suffer a lot from lack of self-love in this society. I think the society breeds it. I know it does, just with the system of commercials. Do you realize commercials, folks? And this is, look into the psychology of it. It's again not hidden. The psychology of commercials is to attack your insecurities and to exacerbate them, right? To make you more and more insecure about yourself, which attacks what? Your self-love, right? That's why I always say and reiterate the most important words to me ever. Three words: know thyself. Because truly, folks, if you know yourself and know indeed how magnificent you are of a creation, right? The self-love flows naturally. Huh? I'm telling you. Okay, brother. Thank you for jumping in. I think that's Brother T is Karma. Just stopping by to say what's up. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for appreciating the stream. We're having a wonderful conversation, and we're talking about healing together so that we can get to a point of having healthy relationships, right? And again, this is applicable to all relationships, but most certainly with a highlight of importance on relationships that involve couples or families in some way, right? Um, Anybody else want to jump in, or Brother T, do you have a quick statement you want to be? I know you might have to roll, bro, but if you got something quick that you want to chime in with us, hit us with that one time real fast, please. And Brother Sean, thank you again for that, man. Come back at me again. Leslie, please, if you, well, I don't want to pressure you, Leslie. I just be so excited to see people in the conversation, and especially if I know that it's somebody who does have a wonderful perspective and wisdom to offer. So if you feel like it, jump in. But if not, just keep listening. And thank you for being with us, truly. All right. Heather, I'm wondering, is Heather with us today? If you come in, Heather, please holler at me. I know you got a lot going on in West V. I love you and appreciate you either way it goes. Deanne, they're still in West V. Please holler at me one more time, Deanne, and give your opinion on what you think in this. All right, Brother T, thank you, man. Comes back in and says, learn to love yourself and appreciate your temple. True that. I'm on a 48-hour fast right now. Okay, true indeed. And he says, and feeling amazing. Great, brother. Great. Dude, and you're doing that. See, that's an example of taking action to exhibit love for yourself. Huh? All right, I applaud that, brother. Do your thing and feel magnificent. True indeed. I salute that. I salute you. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you jumping in and sharing with us, man. That love of self is so important. And thank you for leading us on that that particular nuance and down that path, Isha. That self-love is so important. And Brother Sean, thank you very much for again really bringing the light and reiterating the truth that you cannot extend it to anybody else if you don't have it for yourself first, right? Oh, word life, appreciated, brother. But I got to go. Go ahead, family. Thank you again for stopping by, man. I know you took into your time to do that. Truly, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, man. Anybody else who's in here, please come back at me on this with your question, comment, statement, whatever you want to throw at us. Deanne, are you still in here with me? If you are, please holler at me one more again on this comment. I would love to hear your perspective and what you feel is a direction or even a starting point for having a healthy relationship, and like what you want to look for to have as a foundation of your experience with another individual, whatever that kind of relationship might be, right? And again, I open this up, reiterating, folks, that I do want this to be inclusive of all kinds of relationships, because I think that's important. We have so many different relationships in our lives that impact our lives, right? Beyond just what we would call, relationships involving a couple. Your relationship with your parents, with your siblings, with your children, children with your parents is also so important. Brother Sean jumps back in. Thank you, man. He says, in a relationship, we have to have honest communication about how you feel and what you want. Yes. I think that happening. Thank you, man. That's salute that. That is so important, because I think that at the onset of any relationship, right? It's just like when you, quite honestly, when you form a partnership in a business, to have any shot at that having any longevity or being something that is healthy, you absolutely need to, at the onset of the relationship, have very honest and open communication about how you feel and what you want, because each side needs to know what they expect to be getting out of this, right? In order for it to be viewed as successful mutually, right? And mutually beneficial, and something through which each of you can grow, right? We always want to be in an environment where we can be growing, folks. whatever kind of relationship is. We always want to be growing, right? Otherwise, you're looking at arrested development by the very definition of it. Deanne, thank you for coming back. And she says mutual respect is huge. Yes, mutual respect is very huge. Folks, there have been so many doctrines that have been heaped on us, right? That shape and mold what each of us like even views as respect, or what is an acceptable form of extended respect, and or who is worthy of it, right? All of these things have been impacted by external influences, indoctrination and agendas that have been heaped on us. And I think it's very important for us to know and understand that, and to know going into it that there's been someone, right, a group of someones that have been purposefully attempting to manipulate and steer all of us in divisive directions that would sabotage our relationships and have us going into relationships with lopsided views or standpoints of respect, like who's worthy of respect and what respect they're worthy of, right? And that's never a healthy place to start from. There needs to be equity there in order for you to move forward with a solid foundation, so you build something that will not topple. Remember, you're building with Big King Sadiq, so McGuan tell you about how to build us with a strong foundation. See it? Don't hit me with the Jafakins. But certainly love to all my Jamaican brethren, and I've had some real true friends, and still have some real true friends from the islands, and am very grateful for their wisdom. Thank you, brethren, sistren. All right, Issa comes back in. Thank you, baby. She says, I think many relationships, romantic and familiar, tend to fail or fall apart due to lack of respect for differences. You should respect others' lifestyles rather than try to force yours on them. Wise words spoken, huh? Just earned another salute. True that. Very wise and accurate, on point. I would say, like, you know, and I'm gonna get to you real quick, Sean. Um, Part of the beauty of the fact that all of us, like almost 8 billion of us, are having our own individual, like, human experience. Part of the beauty of that is that it's different. And we're going to have different perspectives, and we're going to disagree. We're going to see things, feel things, process things, experience things, regurgitate things, and relay things to one another differently. And if we don't have a basis of respect for that and for each other, we and no matter what the kind of relationship is, you're starting off on a, it's like you starting off the dunk on the wrong foot, and you just a little bit short, you're fitting to get arched. True that. But really, it's important that you have that as a foundation. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Isha. Thank you so much for that. Sean comes back in and says, we have to remember, if you don't tell us, we don't know. We are not mind readers, and we don't have telekinesis as of yet. Right, true that. We're developing that. But yeah, that communication thing is very important, and that reiterates that, right? I do think that both men and women unconsciously or at times guilty of having expectations from their mate, right? In particular, and even in other kinds of relationships, that we expect the other person to just do and be in that at that place or create that healthy environment that we want to see of them without any communication of what we need as requisites for that to be true or for that to be something that could even possibly come to fruition, right? So now not only have we not communicated with them enough to see what they want out of it, right? But we haven't even taken the time to express to them what we need, but yet are still, in most situations, giving the responsibility to them that they need it, right? And that's just not fair. It's not fair, but I don't think it's something people do purposefully. Let me say that. I just think that it's part of how we have been socially engineered to interact with one another, right? Always again from that egoic place that we are very myopic in the way we interact with one another. We are always thinking from a self perspective, right? Even very much so subconsciously. And when it's subconscious, it shows up in so very subtle ways that it's hard to detect, but still very impactful. Thank you very much for that, Sean. That is very important. And I want to jump back into another aspect of what Isha was saying on how it's very important, why, and the fact that it's very important to respect the lifestyles and life choices and daily, even, right? Um, Daily steps of a person in their life and in their human experience, right? Rather than to try to force yours onto them, because when you do that right away, given the fact that we're all different, like I just exclaimed, you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Every time that's what you're doing because we're all different and unique, right? So I can't make you try to live like Big King Sadiq because I'm me and you and your way of life and lifestyle or life choices, the way you step in your human experiences is not only your own and is valid, but you are worthy of that being honored. Huh? Did you hear me? The fact that you are having your experience your way is worthy of being honored, right? And it's part of why why there's, like I said, nearly 8 billion of us having this experience. Brother Sean jumps back in. Thank you, man. And he says, um, as well as knowing you as individual before y'all got together, right? And still need individuality and privacy as y'all stay together as a couple. Man, is that very important and big, right? Um, I think that, and I see Alicia jump back in. Thank you so much. I'm about to get to your comment. But Sean, that is boom. Sean earns another salute. I'm giving these out like trophies, y'all. But that is so important, man. We all are these individuals, like I was saying, and often I think society has engineered into us that we need to um, forfeit our individuality in order to meld into this new identity that is us, rather than still being your individual self, but having this new sort of experience that is created when you're with that other person. You could still have that experience without sacrificing you. And I certainly believe and concur that it's a much healthier environment when you do that. All right. Thank you so much, Brother Sean. Um, Alicia, back to what you were getting into, what you're saying now. So, if I were in a relationship and that person wasn't a good fit for me, according to my personal values and beliefs, then that relationship will end. To know myself enough to know that is self love. True indeed. Um, I concur wholeheartedly with that. I think that when you do know thyself, there's those three words again. When you do truly know yourself, you then have already established and started your platform of being able to recognize what's healthy for you, and that's certainly inclusive of what you can identify in a relationship, like a coupling with someone else, right? um, the more you know yourself and respect yourself and what you are, the more you already are attuned, right? Remember, this is all waves, folks, right? All electromagnetic waves and of intent and energy and feeling, right? And the more you are attuned to what is healthy for you in another person or in coupling with some other person, um, that is very powerful. Alicia earns another salute, bang, right? Giving them out like trophies, y'all. Come on and get them. Thank you so much, Alicia and Sean, for both of those very powerful and very relative points, man. I'll reiterate both of them quickly because they're very powerful, and anybody else, please jump in. But again, knowing yourself and being able to respect that individuality of each other and maintain that only creates a healthier platform and strengthens your ability for longevity. I would concur with Sean on that. And enriches your experience, right? But remember, that's why you're with somebody else, because you ain't doing it by yourself, right? Think about this logically for a second, folks, right? The whole reason why you're doing a relationship of whatever nature, especially a coupling with someone else, is because you ain't trying to do it to yourself. You ain't trying to be just by yourself. You have your human experience. In other words, is what I'm saying. Don't get me misconstrued. But you have identified what it is to see and experience life from your perspective. So now you're ready to share, not surrender or forfeit, but share your human experience with another person so then you can see what that like. Huh? You trying to see what this new experience is like. So if you trying to force somebody into your lifestyle, i.e. back what Isha was saying, and also what Alicia was saying, right? Which may not be healthy for them, right? Um, then you're destroying the whole purpose of getting in a relationship in the first place. You might as well still be by yourself. What's the point? Right? Which is why you have generally in those types of relationships a lot of misery, because you got somebody trying to force one way on which should be a two-way street, right? Um, and and I concur with all of y'all in the general sentiment, which I think we all are arriving at, which is that we need that healthy environment in a relationship for us to really ensure that we are giving at least the experience that each other can place some value on. Or again, otherwise, you might as well not be with that person. Really, folks. I mean, if you can't be yourself, right? Because first of all, you got to be yourself to enhance your experience, right? So you be yourself, and that other person's perspective then helps you to grow and enhance your experience. Well, then that is something you can place value on. Otherwise, there's no value, right? It's like an investment with no NOI. There's no or ROI rather. There's no return on investment. You're getting nothing back out of it. So you're expending energy into like a bottomless pit. It's like a house. Another analogy, like the house that's the bottomless pit. You keep trying to improve it, and you keep finding more and more ways that you're just spending more money on something that won't be. Okay, Isha comes back in and says, if you can't respect me, don't deserve my time, no matter who you are. True indeed. Um, that is an excellent statement. Again, worthy of a salute, because it extends over all kinds of relationships, right? Just like she said, no matter who you are, we're all worthy of respect, folks. We're all having this human experience. We're all people who have our own way of seeing, thinking, feeling, receiving, sending out, responding, whatever. We're all individuals that I think should be honored for even having that. So, with that being the case, if you unfortunately are at the place where you can't respect me and my individuality or my own individual experience or what I'm bringing to the table as me, then why should I bring it to the table? Why are we talking? Again, there's no healthy way for us to proceed forward. Now, for some reason, unfortunately, now I won't say for some reason, I'll say that oftentimes due to social engineering, we find ourselves and put ourselves in some precarious positions where we are looking for things, right, out of people, or are allowing ourselves to be sort of snared or attracted to things that are superficially beneficial to us or attractive to us, right? But may not have the true substance of what we're looking for. I think we can, at least I all identify with that socially. But I think most of us, at least at some point in our lives, can identify with being at that place, right? Where either, and and I say this from either side of the relationship, either we have been that person who has sort of, in our own immaturity, been snared by somebody's surface appeal. When, as we peel back the layers, we find more and more that they don't have the substance we're looking for, right? Or we could be that person at whatever point in our maturity or along our journey of spiritual maturity who may be appealing on the surface, but below the surface got some issues that might not allow us to be capable of providing or contributing to an environment for a healthy relationship, right? Honesty is so deep, folks, especially when we talk about being honest with and about ourselves. Huh? You know that ain't easy for most of us. Brother Sean jumps back in and says, been with my wife for 34 years, married for 24, and still learning together. We are one. Man, first of all, double salute to that. Bow, bow. Right? They've been together for 34 years and 24 years marriage and counting. And counting, I said. Right. Man, I got to celebrate that, and they are one. Did you hear what the brother said, right? I feel you on that. Um, and I know they would each say, I know them as friends, right? And I know they would each say and acknowledge how they have um, placed importance on recognizing each other's individuality. And I salute them for being able to do that. And certainly, I'm sure they would agree that that's probably a key recipe in uh, uh, their longevity, right? And being able to be together and to be married for so long, certainly being able to respect each other's individuality and what each of them brings to the table as they grow together as one, right? Uh, as that unk bow the key with the keys. Say, no, let me not say that. Somebody beat it, suit me. Man, but thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate that. And we salute that, right? Anybody else, come on back in. Let's keep it rolling. This is powerful as we heal together and grow into what we need. See, now here I'm gonna throw something out, another nuance to the conversation. Y'all, how much of this, right? How much of this is reflected with what we see in society right now? What I mean is, how much of what we've just identified as what we like to see in relationships, how much of that do we see reflected in what society shows us? Right? Hey, Heather. She says, I got nothing. I'm sorry, baby, but that was funny. Why you got nothing, Heather? Heather says, I got nothing. Why you got nothing, Heather? You do have something there. You know, I don't want to press you to say anything. That was so funny. But I think your perspective is valid. So whatever you want to say about it, please go ahead and offer it in if you feel like it. Okay. That was funny. But yeah, give me a second, y'all. Yeah, I apologize. No libation. Then again, I don't know if I even like that word. Just a little something to sip on. All right. What a world. We got to go back and question so many things that we find out we have been misled on. Alicia says, sorry for the typos. No problem about the typos. Oh, okay, Alicia. I skipped your comment. I apologize. Caught me with a cold up. Y'all don't know. Alicia used to have some hands. What? All right. Alicia says, having been married, divorced, and BL feel, that must be the typo she's talking about, feel just as successful as someone who chose to stay together for many years. Okay, word life. And that, listen, it's all validly part of our experience. Remember, folks, individuals, there's 8 billion of us almost, and we all having those different experiences for a different number of reasons. There is no set way in which we're all supposed to mature spiritually. We all have our own list or litany of things that we need to grow through and experience, right, in order to spiritually mature in the way that we need to in this corporeal physical existence. Alicia says, sorry for the typos. LOL, stop it. Y'all know I'll be clowning just a bit, right? But no, man. Yeah, it's important that I think it's important that we don't lose anything that we gain of ourselves along the way, which you actually won't, because folks, when you really learn something, especially when you learn something about yourself, you don't forget it. You might act a fool and ignore it from time to time, but you really don't forget it. And that's when you end up kicking yourself, saying, I knew better than that. Yeah, you did. All right. Alicia comes back in and says, I say that because society will make you feel a way about your choices I stay true to myself and feel powerful because of it. And you should, right? Um, First of all, do we know how many folks have stayed in bad, horrible, toxic relationships and or marriages way longer past the point that they should have got out in order for it to be healthy for them, right? So we have to acknowledge that. I just also and most certainly salute those who have found, and in fact, that's even the more reason for us to salute um, folks like Sean and Leslie who have found that recipe, right? That allows for that kind of longevity and long-term union. And I don't think it all that diminishes the value of what any of us gets out of our experiences, whether we're with someone for 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years, whatever, and may end up parting. What's important is what we took out of the relationship, as I almost break my shoulders. True that. But really, what we take out of the relationship or the experience is what's important, right? And what I think is valid as a meter or a means for us to sort of judge or gauge the value of what we got out of that human experience. Um, I myself was with someone for 20 plus years, we'll say, and have many wonderful things that I can express as part of that experience, but probably have that much more that I can point to that I now see as things that wait a minute, I would never do that now, right? But that I can recognize for my own growth, right? Which makes me the person, the man that I am now going forward. And which has enhanced and laid the table for the magnificent man that I will be going into my next relationship, right? But that's another story. Um, Brother Sean comes back in. Heather says, me, I have. Oh, okay, so hold on. Let's jump back in. Let me catch up. So, what we see in the media, this is going back. Sorry, y'all. I'm just a little bit behind, but I'm catching up. What we see in the media is not very supportive to healthy relationships. No, it's not. That's what I was. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I was pointing to that agenda or those agendas to keep us divisive and not having healthy relationships. Right. The whole point of this podcast today, right? Legacy mainstream media is pushing us in the opposite direction of what we're talking about trying to establish today. They don't want us to have these kind of healthy relationships that we're talking about establishing, right? Unfortunately, that is the environment that we've gotten to in our society. But I go a little bit further, and I'm trying to catch back up, y'all. Please excuse me. Okay. Heather. Okay, bang. Says that. True. And me, I have. Okay, Sean comes back in and says, we have been in a social experiment far as relationships since the government has started giving out benefits. Remember, back in the day, the man cannot be in the house for them to receive help from the government. True that. Anybody who goes to my channel knows that I made a video about that, a long and extensive video about how there were actually uh, police, government, welfare police, right? That would go into the subsidized housing of a great number of families to sort of enforce that there be no man present, right? that it be, and which essentially was just making sure that it was not a two-parent household, right? Taking that away even as a potential, let alone breaking up that relationship that could have potentially existed there for the coupling of two more human beings sharing their human experience, potentially. But yeah, that's powerful. So society again has always showed a engineering tactic of steering us toward division. Deanne comes in and states, I like what you said about attunement. I think it's really important that two people in a relationship um, beyond you a have a similar frequency. Okay, I feel what you're saying. True indeed, and I would say that that is something that's natural and important and going to be on the increase, not only of importance, but as what we see um, human beings start to move to, right? In other words, I think more and more we're naturally going to start to find ourselves attracted to people who are of a similar vibrational frequency. And that I do also agree that I think that that is a very likely environment to foster a good relationship. And then Deanne further says, of course, we all have times when we're low vibing, but it's very difficult for a high vibe person to have continuous low vibes in those around them. I know what you're saying, right? So I think, pardon me if I'm misstating this, Deanne, but I think that part of what she's saying is that, like, for example, someone who is really very far along in their spiritual maturation, very far along in their awakening and their process, and sort of where they're at in maturing and moving along through all of this, might have a very difficult time being in a couple relationship with someone who just had an awakening experience, let's say, a year ago. Um, that could very much be the case. Now, depending on the individual, there is the potential for the opposite to be the case, right? For because of that person being at a very, spiritually mature place, maybe they're that much more tolerant, understanding, and capable of navigating the nuances of what a person starts to experience and feel as they progress further and further on this awakening path or through this experience. It really, I think, depends, and there's so many myriads of scenarios that we could see one another, being of different vibrational frequencies on it. Like, it's really dependent on the individuals involved. But that is an excellent point. Salutes to Heather, Deanne, and then now Heather for this comment. Um, and to Sean again, I owe you a salute again. I'm getting back on my comments and salutes. So I throw them out. Okay, Heather comes back in and says, I always ran into the problem of men falling in love with what they see, but not having the first clue of how to match with me intellectually or compassionately minded. So control and jealousy creep in, or even insecurity. I agree that all this I mentioned is low vibes. I need high vibe awareness to survive a length of time. Word life. Um, yeah, why subject our folks? There's so many different ways of looking at it. I would say that poses an obvious question. Why open ourselves up to the continual uh, contention that we'll likely be met with when we are working or dealing with or in a coupling type or a couple relationship with someone who is like constantly on a low vibe, right? It's a mismatch for one. So you have the environment, I would say, for very polarized points of view on just about everything. Right? So because of that, what do you think you're going to naturally have a lot of? Arguments, right? Or at least there is the environment that would allow for that. Um, so I see, and not only arguments, just the drawing down. Like, who wants to constantly have to be fending off something that's drawing down their vibe, right? You wake up in a great mood, and this other individual woke up in their typical lousy mood, and now you're having to like fight to maintain your high vibe like that. Why have to have a relationship where that's fostered, that extra challenge? I feel you on that, Heather. All right. Alicia says, love that. Word life. Then she goes in to say, I'm out the door with that experience. LOL. I feel you, right? Um, you know, and many of us who have been in or through that kind of experience, we ain't having that no more. We just, you're done with that. I mean, and that's natural. Why? It's sort of like a subtle or even sometimes not so subtle form of self torture, right? Why torture yourself daily with having to sort of combat that environment that goes along with this coupling or relationship that you're having with this person who's continuously on a much lower vibe than you, right? It's just likely often not a good idea. All right. In my opinion, for what that's worth. Heather comes back in and says, my experiences primarily were long before I started my spiritual journey. And I didn't understand these concepts. And yes, the bad mood, good mood was my first marriage description. Okay. Okay. So she lived, right? A marriage in a situation where, like, bang, she pops up, sun's shining. She can appreciate that. She's in a good mood. She's smiling and ready to have a good and productive day, right? And rather than the other individual just more often than not matching that energy, you got the polar opposite, right? And then now you got to work to maintain what you already woke up with, right? And that's a struggle. Why sign yourself up for that every day? Right? Why sign yourself up for that every day? Um, man, boom! I owe these salutes out to all of y'all. Alicia, Heather, Deanne, Sean, man, y'all, here's your salutes. Take them. I got a whole big, you know what I'm saying? Big uh storage chumpy full of salute trophies. I'm giving the art, just bang. I ain't going Oprah with it, but y'all have them. Take them because you deserve them. Thank you so much for all this wonderful input. Heather comes back in and says, he even said to me, how do you have so much joy all the time? See now, Heather, I'm gonna make a statement, right? With no disrespect intended, certainly at all, toward your former or your ex, but I would quickly identify, or sort of, and I'm hesitant because I don't like putting labels on people, but we have to be able to recognize what we're dealing with in other people as well. But I would say that that's a classic energy vampire, right? Um, and anybody who's not familiar with the concept of an energy vampire, I have done several videos on my channel. Please check that out. And know that it is somebody who is suffering from an energetic, and this even correlates on the spiritual level, an energetic deficiency um, that creates within them the thirst that is pictorialized and sensationalized in vampire and the vampire um, uh, experience, if you want to call it that. Um, that's basically what they are doing is they're lusting after satisfaction of this deficiency, right? And the energy vampire is doing the same thing to you and to me, to any of us, if we allow ourselves to be in that kind of environment, right? An energy vampire will suck you dry every time you get a chance. This individual, I'm not villainizing, because often folks, they don't even know it. Huh? They don't even know it. But they got so many deep rooted corrosive issues, right? That eat away at their psyche and eat away at their spiritual core, that it creates a deficiency that they look to fill by sucking the energy right out of another individual who may be plentiful and such, right? So you done woke up, you done bounced into the day, huh? You done woke up like King Sadiq wake up every day, huh? And if you know that, that's magnificent, man. And you ready to start your day like that, and all of a sudden, the drain. No, and if you marry into that, yeah, that's a daily drain. And yeah. So Heather comes back. Alicia feels you on that. She said, yes, I feels you. I know I ain't saying how you probably say it, but she feels you on that, Heather. And Heather came back in and said, he has learned a lot since our divorce and is doing much better in his second marriage. We'll salute to him then. Um, True that. Our son provided many tests, LOL, on how to find joy in undesirable situations. Word life, word life. Well, that sounds like, opportunity for growth utilized. I salute that, right? Um, Sean, thank you, brother. Jumps back in and says, run, run, run away from low vibratory individuals. Hey, man, I don't blame anybody who decides for themselves, listen, this ain't for me. I ain't doing it. Flat out. I'm not doing it. And I just don't blame you. I've had to do that myself with several different individuals and in several different situations. I mean, I've had to do that in jobs. Y'all know I can tell you about some stories now. Don't have me, man. I done had some. That's a whole nother thing. Anyway, uh, I've had to do it, right, in many different types of relationships, including coupling. So I understand anybody's sentiment to go ahead and distance yourself from it and say, man, I ain't doing it. Hey, protect you, protect your growth. And this is a hard enough process for people to go through without something making it worse. It's just that's straight like that. Straight like that. Um, Alicia comes back in and says, you all know that song that goes, she's a runner, she's a track star, but in reality, she's a woman that know how powerful she is to go. I'm singing it wrong. I know I must stop before the stones they throw. Whoa, 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 whoa. All right. But I don't know the song, but I saluted the concept of it. And Heather knew it, and she gave a heart to that. And the concept, Alicia comes back in and says, is fragile egos will make it about any and everything else. True that. True that. Folks, there are folks who are complete egomaniacs, right? I'm not saying this as an indictment, rather as an a description, right? And these egomaniacs absolutely are thirsty for constant a reassurance or somebody give me the word, y'all know what I'm talking about, from other people. In fact, they demand it, right? This um uh validation, right? And often to the point of they damn near want worshiping, right? By their behavior, the way they would act to you, or what they almost require from you, just in your dealing with them in any kind of relationship, but especially in a relationship or coupling type of a situation. Thank you, Heather. Yes, validation. True that. Um, and those people like try to force it out of you, even. Man, if y'all would some of the again story time would go into all of this. Um, we got the reins to dive back into this, y'all, while we all here talking a minute. We got to all get together, right? This is a beautiful forum, but I would love it if sometime we could all get together, maybe hit one of these parks on a beautiful day, or get together in the early evening, whatever, when we can arrange this, um, just to get to know one another and to have that kind of um, camaraderie for and with one another. People who I feel like, okay, just personally, I feel like everybody in this forum, this family that we've created to have these conversations with, that everybody is of a certain mentality of moving forward, right? We're all moving forward together, right? And just we are in a place where I feel like we can all build together. What that is what's the title of it? Building with Big King. We already doing it here. Let's get in person and do it sometime. That would be a lot of fun, I do think. Um, Heather comes back in and says, sadly, that is what just happened with me and Bill. And yes, he did try to force it out of me sometimes. Okay. I feel you, Heather. Um, uh, and you know, sometimes we sort of self-sabotage because there's a lot of things about this person that we do find appealing, even beyond surface issues, right? There, as we peel back the layers, we might find some substance. Okay. Um, and in those situations, it can be even that much more difficult to detach in a healthy way when it's actually necessary for us, because this person has already exhibited so much that we'd like to keep, right? You man, if you know, I wanted this. This is the pie of what I wanted out of a man or relationship or woman in a relationship, and you done got to 85% of the pie, but that last 15% just happened to be a deal breaker, and I couldn't I can't go meet you there on that. That's tough because we don't want to do that. So we don't want to let go and be spiritually mature enough to recognize that. So I salute you, Heather, in recognizing that. And I say that because I've met him, right? And I saw at least a certain degree of happiness between the two of you. So I can only imagine how difficult it may have been for you to come to that realization and then be spiritually mature enough to do what's best for you. So I salute you double time on that, right? So I'm gonna try to catch back up. And then Heather came back in and said, I am very sad without him, but yes, self-sabotage was what I even tried to get him to see. And it's tough to get the other person to sometimes see any of what we're experiencing or even the reality of what the relationship has become. That's tough. Alicia jumps back in and says, OMG, yes, cuz no toxic relationship starts that way. Heather says, so true, so sad. It was exactly like that. Alicia comes back and it says, can't ignore those red flags. No, you can't. No, you bet not. You bet not. Alicia says, every time I've done that in the past, the relationship went on way past the due date, right? Right. I feel you that. I feel you on that. Um, you know, I I've lived through that and can be listen, I can be mature enough to say that perhaps I've been the other individual who that person should have recognized the due date enough to detach from me. Huh? Which ain't easy to get to that point, but we need to be real with ourselves, folks. I know I had to be to get to where I'm at now, right? So that I can be at a point where I know I can guarantee the next relationship I go and get into, I'm going to be the best version of myself, and certainly, one that is worth sharing the human experience with. So I go back in and say, Alicia says, she said that, and then Heather gave her response in an emoji. Yeah, folks. I mean, this is just real and what we experience in this. And here's what's deep, y'all. We can't forget that in the backdrop of all this that we are experiencing, there's still that agenda looming over our heads. There's still social engineering looming over us and manipulating all this and adding to its complexity and the nuances of it. So, man, I don't honestly blame anybody on either side of it. Honestly, it's just where you're at that point. And often there's just maturity that you still got to go through. Huh? You got to grow. Alicia comes back in and says, cuz everybody is some sort of scared. That's why you and I get love from strangers, cuz real recognizes real. Word life. Thank you, bud. True that. We see it in each other. We can honestly, when human beings are just real and you look across to the next person and you see a human being for a second, like you take away all that the BS, all that surface stuff and all that socially engineered stuff and the labels and tags and all that book. And you just see, man, this is another person who woke up today trying to have a good day. or hopefully they was trying to have a good day, unless we're talking about an energy vampire, but we already touched on that. But this is just, this is another person. We got to see people. Often relationships put us in situations, or we allow them to grow in such a way that we're in situations where we don't even see the other person. In fact, the only thing we see of that other person in the relationship is the role that we want them to fill. Huh? Or sometimes we can be the ones who look up and find ourselves only fulfilling that role that other person is expecting from us or sees us in, because they don't see us anymore. Right? Or maybe never have. Heather says, yes, she feels that word life, Heather. Couple salutes. I owe some salutes out to Alicia and Heather. Bow, 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 bow. I salute y'all. Alicia jumps back in and says, strange folks in strange lands. I love it. Brings me joy. Word life. Scared and scarred. Scared and scarred, right, was, first of all, Alicia was correct, or rather was, I got it, but I said it wrong. We are scarred. But yes, Heather, you're right. We're scarred, scarred and scared. And Heather comes back and says, true about roles, word life. Alicia comes back and it says, LOL. I'm not scared. I'm sorry, baby. I just said it wrong. Man, my bad, y'all. It says, LOL, I'm not scared to try, though. I'm pretty open, and I require that of my partner as well. And that's paramount, right? Folks, I'm at a point where, like, all I'm looking for in a person, because I'm whole, right? And because I don't need anything from anyone else, we can have an experience together when we enhance each other. So all I need is a person with a good heart and an open mind, right? You know, and that co-interest in one another and seeing one another and the experience that we're having. Because if you don't see that man, this person's having a human experience that's magnificent in its own right, then there's there's likely not the opportunity to have a shared experience where both of you can grow magnificently and magnificently respecting the new experience that you're creating together. Right? Alicia jumps back in. I'll catch back up, y'all. I'm good. Okay. Lisa says, period, LOL. And then Isha jumps back in and says, I think sometimes we are on different journeys, operating out of different perspectives and vibrations. But nowadays, people automatically think, oh, you're not like me. Your vibe is low. That is true. That's where the judgment aspect comes in, right? And I try to always promote that like, folks, we don't need to judge each other. Society we got that socially engineered into us to judge one another all of the time. They taught us to do that. And today's environment teaches us really to judge people, not only to judge them, but then when you deem them unworthy or guilty in some way, society teaches you to throw them away, ban them, right? And what's to cancel them. So don't true that, babe. It's not for anybody to determine somebody else's vibrational frequency, but it is your right and your responsibility for yourself to recognize somebody else's vibrational frequency in relationship to how it resonates with your own. Right? See, this is not about a good and bad thing. And that's what I think often gets misconstrued about low vibe. What I'm gonna do, there's a chart, y'all, that I had put up in a video previously, that I think would be helpful, that I need to bring back up and put on the podcast one time, because it shows like what we're really talking about when we say high vibe and low vibe, right? Scientists had actually measured the electromagnetic output from human beings when they are in various emotional and mental states, right? And in those various emotional and mental states, they registered a different actual measurable vibrational frequency measured in hertz and megahertz. um, they actually measured the frequency of where people were in each state, right? And that's where the whole high vibe state. So what I'm saying is when somebody's resonating in, self-love, for example, we already acknowledged that to be the most powerful love. When somebody's really resonating in their love for their self, their vibrational frequency will be measured at a very high vibrational frequency, right? A very high vibrational frequency rate. And conversely, for someone who feels very bad about themselves, there are people who self-loathe, right? And who essentially hate themselves. Their vibrational frequency would be very low. And I just offer those up as polar opposites to let you know that there's an actual range, an actual sort of, frequency that we as human beings give off experientially. I just wanted to throw that out there real quick because so many people do end up, thank you, Isha, double shout out to you, end up judging one another and misusing those labels. I see that a lot, the misuse of the labels of low vibe or high vibe, right? They use it as a judgment tool, and that's not what it's supposed to be about at all. It's not about a judgment tool or a labeling mechanism. Okay. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Isha. Alicia says, and that is the truth, word life. Alicia says, below the line thinking. Yeah, it is below the line thinking. And you know, again, this stuff is engineered into us, y'all. Really. We're taught in so many ways to be like this, to be this way. That we don't recognize that there are so many subtle triggers in our subconscious that we attach to daily interactions with one another, daily relationships, right? That we don't realize how these things even are prompting us. And I say us because we've all been subjected to this stuff for so long that we're working our way out of it, which is why forums like this and conversations like this are so important, because the more we bust it up and the more we build a different and new, more solid foundation that starts with that self-love that we identified, then the more we can build it the right way, right? Instead of, what society has, thank you, Sister Lauren Hill, miseducated us on or misdirected us to establish or to build. We can build it the right way. Man, powerful, y'all. True indeed. Pat yourselves on the back. Give yourselves a round of applause. Man, this conversation has been just exactly what I was looking for. And I thank you all so much. I ain't saying I have to shut it down now. Keep it going. Anybody else that got something next and new or wants to offer something else about this, please hit me up one more again. I'm looking in the chat. I'll try to stay caught up. Sometimes I get behind a little bit, y'all. A little bit. Don't try to get in don't try to get in the texting conversation with me. You're going to be swollen and like this dude is taking way too long. I know. I can't, I don't keep up. I don't keep up. Okay, Isha comes back in and says, sometimes, excuse me. sometimes we should recognize we are on different vibes and not aligned at this point of time, rather than automatically designating another person to what you perceive as a low vibe individual. Yeah, true that. It goes back into the labeling and judgment, and just recognize, look, man, you're resonating on this, I'm resonating on that, or woman or whoever, you're resonating on this, I'm resonating on that. Um, we just don't sync up right now. And it's better that we recognize that and move forward in whatever direction we're going on our own directions, right? Because I mean, honestly, don't we owe that to each other, right? Again, didn't I say that earlier? At least I feel that we should be respecting each other's individual journey and experience, right? If we use this high vibe, low vibe thing as a labeling tool and as a judgment mechanism, then we're totally disrespecting the other person's journey. That ain't what we looking for. That ain't what we looking for, and that's not how that's meant to be used, right? Um, Again, it's meant to be a tool to gauge where folks did. I guarantee you, if I go around with an EF meter, right, an EMF meter, electromagnetic frequency meter, and I hold it up against everybody, any 10 individuals during the course of the day, they're going to fluctuate in their vibrational frequency. You ain't at the same vibe all day long. I ain't at the same vibe all day long. Nobody is, right? You can have a general range of resonance, right? That you've grown to be able to have enough tools to maintain. But as you go through different experiences and points of life and life's collage of experiences, your vibrational frequency changes. It's about how you're able to then manage it to be in the range you want it to be in. Word life, and I jump back in, and Isha comes in and says, "Okay, we finished up on Isha. Thank you again. I owe you a couple bang salutes on that. I salute you." Alicia, one more again, comes in and says, "Self-preservation can be born out of trauma responses. I have to be very introspective to recognize if I'm operating from that level or not. But at the end of the day, I have to trust my intuition." I would most certainly implore all of us to do that. Yes, least bang, bang. We got to start using our intuition more, folks. My mother always instilled in me and told me, son, trust your gut. Guess what, folks? That's where your intuition is housed, right? In your navel chakra. That's where your intuition is housed, in your navel chakra. Trust your gut. If you don't, you may be dishonoring yourself. Or at least you may be putting yourself in a bad situation and stepping into something that you actually had the ability to avoid. Word life, leash. Thank you for that. And Sean comes back in and says, "I believe shadow work is ongoing every day, all day. If you're not doing that, are we really self preserving?" Okay, well, um, first of all, that's a question for each individual to answer for themselves, right? And then in reference to shadow work, not everybody even understands what shadow work is. Most people, when they hear shadow work, they start thinking about, oh, that's taking me into the dark arts or whatever, not realizing we all have a shadow, right? We all have an id or have multidimensional versions of ourself, and we have things within our shadow that we need to go and work on, right? Um, Man, I don't like that. Anyway, but um, when you, because folks, what is yin and do we all familiar with the yin yang symbol, right? The yin yang symbol is doing two things. It's one, giving you a picture of a human being's like spiritual totality. Okay. You're not just one-sided. You're not. Um, and it's also depicting the different paths of the journey back to wholeness or oneness with the creative source, however you want to look at it. But anyway, we got to be able to deal with the totality of us and do the work that we need to do there. True mastery is about mastering you. That's the only master you can be. Y'all remember the what was that? The gold, uh, the last dragon. They kept trying to holler at Bruce Leroy and telling, he kept looking at all these different ways. I got to become the master. I got to become the master. What can I do? I need this wisdom. They had the young man busting open fortune cookies, going through Lord knows what, and putting himself in all kinds of situations about trying to become the master. And he wasn't seeing or hearing the messages all around him throughout the whole movie that were telling him, you're the master. Because mastery is about mastering one's self. Huh? All of oneself. So word life, Sean, for bringing that up. Double salute to Lisa. Double salute to Sean. Bang. Got to make sure we caught up on all the salutes for everybody. True indeed. And if y'all didn't see The Last Dragon, you just should have. It's one of those flicks like the Mac and all them that's on that list, and you just supposed to see it, especially if you melanated. You feel me? You smell me. You got to see that. Huh? Go see The Last Dragon with what was her name? Not Apolloni. Apolloni was from with not Sheila E. Man, well, Sheila E might have been in it, but with y'all remember the young lady's name. Anyway, I'm cutting up. I'm messing up. But anyway, you get the point on the movie. You got to see that movie because it really is deep. How at the end, right? The scene where he actually stepped into mastery is when he finally perceived the messages that were being sent to him all along to look within self for mastery and to understand complete self, because that's truly where the potential for mastery lies. All right. Man, this has been magnificent, folks. Anybody else, keep it coming. Keep feeding me. This we growing together. We're here. That was the point of this. Healing together so that we can grow together and have some kind of a pathway for us to establish more healthy relationships, right? Of all kinds, of course, but especially those that find us in some sort of a couple or family situation. All right. Anybody else, please hit me. I want to most certainly keep this going and keep bouncing this off of one another so that we can have more different angles and nuances of which that we can grow on this topic. Pardon me. Who's next? Step right up. We just had Sean and Alicia and Isha all earning trophies. Bang, bang, bang. Alicia jumps back in. Great times, cuz. Yes, indeed, great times. Thank you so much for walking with me in this human experience, man. True indeed. Thank you so much, Alicia. And all of you, for like seriously just y'all was just stop and think about the experience of knowing even one other person, right? Let alone all the different people that we get to know in our lives, man. It just is so enriching. I mean, like when I look at movies, like I think I was looking at a movie about a cat that got stranded on a Mars mission. When you start to think about the potentially of literally being by yourself, right? Um, and then conversely, you think about what the experience of another human being is like and actually value that. Um, yeah, man, I'm at a point where truly I'm personally placing great value on all my relationships. And I thank and love you all. And again, that's the floor of where I'm of how I'm coming into it now, right? Alicia comes back in is thanks for bringing us into this forum. Oh, thank you, dear one. This is my honor and privilege, and y'all have made it just the experience I was looking and hoping for it to be. I think that we have grown. Um, we've been on here for quite a while, y'all, and that's good. That's magnificent. Um, so I want to continue to do this, to make sure that we're having this kind of form where seriously we can grow together and affect change in each other's lives, and then take that and bring it out into all the other lives and relationships that we have in our lives, and in that way grow, similar to the axiom of each one teach one, right? I think that that's powerful and important. So thank y'all all so much. Um, Man, I'm just going to hit you all with another salute on the way out the door. Take it with you, Alicia. Bang. Sean. Bang. Leslie. Bang. Isha. Bang. Deanne. Bang. Heather. Bang. Oh, man. Anybody else? Brother T stepped in. Bang. Um, Let me go back up here. I don't want to forget nobody. I think I kind of said everybody. If I missed anybody, I'm wrong. No, but I appreciate all y'all so much. This has been a magnificent conversation. Regina chimes in. Thank you, dear. Man, bang, and got her trophy on the way out to the door. On the way, we salute. We ain't got to shut it down just yet, y'all. Regina, do you have something that you would like to add in terms of how we're talking about relationships and us getting to a point where we can honestly heal together and create an environment where we can start to have real healthy relationships, and the foundation for that from the beginning available for us to have for one another? What would you like to say? I'd love to hear it. True indeed. And for everybody, again, really, I just give you all a big double trophy shout out, a salute to all of you. Um, this has been magnificent, and I appreciate it. No pressure, Gina, but I would love to hear what you got to say on this subject. If you got something, please share it with us. Um, we welcome you to the conversation. But either way, just thank you for stopping in and bringing your presence, right? All of us, man, like I said, we are all having this experience together, and it's really when you stop and have existential thought and just think about man, I'm alive, and this is every day. This is life. This is deep. This is really something. Okay, Regina. No, I did get a chance to hear some, but no comments at this time. Thank you. Thank you again for stopping in. I love you and I truly appreciate you. Bang, we give you that trophy and that salute. True indeed. Thank you, Regina. Sean comes back in and says, yes, he was looking to master the green light, which represents the heart chakra, unconditional love. True indeed, man. I say and have made many videos about and reiterate the concept that, man, love is the most powerful force that there is. If you do not know that, folks, you need to know and understand that nothing exists without love. For love truly embodies, offers up, makes available, and represents the energy of cohesion itself. Did you hear me? The energy required for anything to even come together, even at the atomic or subatomic level, down to the neutrinos. You heard me? You gotta have love, right? Scientists have often said that atoms are like 90 something percent empty because all they see is just like this dark emptiness, this void. But they need to understand it's not a void at all. It's filled with the one thing, the one energy that has to be there for that cohesion to take place, for us for anything to come together. And that energy is love. Huh? True unconditional love, our creator's love and energy from the creative source. Again, not religious, but not against anybody's religion. I love being inclusive because we ain't got to say, we all in this party together. And everybody, tonight, if you get a chance, listen to my song All Together. Please, matter of fact, I ain't gonna try to look it up right now. But please, if y'all get a chance, listen to my jam All Together, and listen to and feel that with me because we're doing this all together. True indeed. Alicia states once again, yes, thank you. Man, this has been magnificent, y'all. I appreciate this tremendously. I honor you all and truly. And this has been a magnificent undertaking for us to have together, right? And for us to share this with one another is powerful indeed, in my estimation. And I only want to continue to grow one another more and more in the future, in more and more diverse ways for us to grow together, right? That's what I'm always after, growth, right? Man, thank you all tremendously. Look how long we didn't shared each other's time and energy, right? And that's a beautiful thing. And I'm truly grateful for that and for you all, right? Man, we did it. We grew together. And let's continue to do that. And I say to you in parting, right, that I truly appreciate you all. Yes, Brother Sean and all of you. One love, family. True indeed. One love. I'll say one love, word life. Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq. I'm out. Thank you all. I'm out.